Imagine waking up each morning with a weight on your chest. Before your feet touch the floor, your mind races. What if I mess up at work? What did that friend really mean in their text? You plan and you fret, trying to control every outcome, yet feel more and more out of control. Day after day, anxiety is your unwelcome companion, a constant whisper that something might go wrong. Now picture another scene. You shape your every action to meet other people's expectations. You force a smile and say yes when you want to say no, all because you're terrified of disappointing someone. You scroll through social media and see perfect lives, then look at your own and worry you're falling short. You feel trapped, as if living your life has somehow become a performance for everyone else. Sound familiar? The trap of worry and expectations. Why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we let worry and the fear of others' opinions cage us? We lie awake at night, mind entangled in a web of what-ifs. We replay awkward conversations, imagining what others think of us. We second-guess our decisions, fearing we'll regret them or be judged. The truth is, much of our stress comes from trying to meet standards that were never our own. Think about it. How much of your anxiety stems from chasing goals you don't even truly care about? How often do you hold yourself back because you're afraid of being judged or rejected? How many precious hours do you waste worrying about things that, in the end, might never even happen? We often assume that worrying and obsessing will somehow protect us, as if by imagining every possible misfortune, we can prevent them. But this is a cruel illusion. The French philosopher Michel de Montaigne pointed out a paradox of the human mind. He who fears he shall suffer already suffers what he fears. In other words, when you spend all your time dreading pain or failure, you are inflicting that pain on yourself right now. You live the tragedy over and over in your head, even if it never actually occurs. Montaigne, writing in the 16th century, knew firsthand that worry is not helping you, it's holding you hostage. Consider this famous insight from Montaigne's essays. My life has been full of terrible misfortunes, most of which never happened. How often is that true for us today? We torment ourselves with catastrophes crafted in our imagination. We fear embarrassment, so we never speak up. We fear failure, so we never try. We become prisoners of hypothetical disasters. Meanwhile, life passes us by while we're busy battling phantoms in our heads. The tragedy is that all this worrying doesn't stop the bad things. It only stops you from living fully. And what about the fear of what others think? That too is a self-made prison. We put on masks to fit in, to be liked, to seem successful by someone else's definition. Every time you ignore your own needs or values to appease others, you tighten the shackles of their expectations around you. You might gain approval for a moment, but lose a bit of yourself in the process. Montaigne observed that people will always have their opinions and form strange ideas of you, often adapting you to their own fantasies or needs. No matter how hard you try, you cannot control what others think. Chasing validation is like trying to catch a shadow. You only exhaust yourself. The more you base your self-worth on external approval, the more power you hand over to others to dictate your happiness. So here we are, exhausted, anxious, and disconnected from our true selves, all because we're trying desperately to control the uncontrollable. We strive to script every detail of our future and to manage other people's perceptions of us. It's as if we're gripping tightly onto the reins of life with white knuckles, afraid that any loosened grip will lead to chaos. But ask yourself, has all this worry and control actually made life go better? Or have you noticed the opposite? That the harder you try to force life to go your way, the more anxious and frustrated you become. Montaigne's wake-up call, freedom through letting go. Let's turn back to Michel de Montaigne, our philosophical guide. Living in a turbulent era of the French Renaissance, Montaigne had plenty he could worry about: political chaos, personal tragedies, his own mortality. In fact, as a young man, Montaigne was paralyzed by the fear of death. It haunted him to the point that he struggled to enjoy life. But then something life-changing happened to him. Montaigne was riding horseback one day when he was suddenly thrown off his horse in a violent accident. He was knocked unconscious, and nearly died. And yet, in that brief brush with death, he experienced something extraordinary. While his friends later told him that his body was convulsing in distress, Montaigne's own perception was that he felt a calm, almost blissful peace. There was no terror, no pain in that moment, just a gentle floating, as if all burdens had fallen away. When he regained consciousness and recovered, Montaigne reflected deeply on this event. He realized he had spent years dreading death, suffering under that dread every single day. And for what? Death itself, when it truly came near, felt far less frightening than the fear of it. His takeaway was liberating. Don't bother your head about it, he essentially said about death. In letting go of his fear, Montaigne found a new lease on life. This was Montaigne's wake-up call, and it became a cornerstone of his philosophy. What if we applied the same revelation to all our worries and anxieties? Montaigne began to practice a kind of serene surrender in the face of life's troubles. This wasn't giving up on life. It was accepting that some things are beyond our control, and that that's okay. He even helped others learn to gently let go, comforting a grieving friend by patiently diverting her mind from sorrow until nature healed her. Montaigne had discovered an ancient truth echoed by Stoic philosophers and many wise thinkers. When we stop trying to control everything, we often find things naturally fall into place. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means trusting what's beyond fear, as the lesson goes. Instead of tightening your grip, sometimes you need to open your hands. Montaigne believed that by obsessing over control and perfection, we actually make ourselves more miserable and less capable. By expecting too much of ourselves and trying to remain in control of every experience, we actually undermine that control, he observed. Think about that. The more rigidly you try to manage every outcome, the more life seems to rebel. You plan for every contingency, yet something unexpected still happens. You try to make everyone like you, and yet someone is inevitably critical. All your efforts to control only highlight how out of control you really are, and that feels terrifying. Montaigne's insight was that this approach disconnects us from our own nature and intuition. When you're consumed by fear and micromanaging, you can't see situations objectively. You might even make foolish decisions because you're acting out of panic or a false persona. In Montaigne's words, we lose contact with our nature and become foolish as well as miserable. What's the alternative? Montaigne advises us to trust ourselves and life more. It is much better to look for what is natural in ourselves and accept it, he counseled. That means recognizing our limits, our humanity, and embracing them rather than fighting them. You can't control every event, and you can't be liked by everyone, but you can know yourself and be true to yourself. Montaigne learned to have faith in his own nature, to let time and providence do their work instead of constantly gripping life by the throat out of fear. This acceptance is not resignation. It's a courageous act of trusting that come what may, you will find a way to be okay. Cutting the strings, embracing your authentic self. One of Montaigne's most famous sayings is a declaration of personal authenticity. I do not care so much what I am to others as I care what I am to myself. Imagine adopting this mindset in your own life. It's not about becoming selfish or indifferent to people. It's about prioritizing your own truth over others' approval. If you stopped worrying about impressing anyone, what would you do differently? Perhaps you'd pursue a career you truly love instead of the one that sounds prestigious. Maybe you'd dress the way you feel comfortable, instead of following the fickle trends. You might speak up about your real feelings, or set boundaries with those who expect too much of you. Sure, not everyone will applaud you. Some might gossip or disagree, but Montaigne would say, let them. People will form their opinions regardless. You have no control over that. What you can control is living in a way that you can respect. At the day's end, as you lay in bed, it's your own conscience that whispers to you. And wouldn't you rather it say, I stayed true to myself today, than, I lived someone else's script? Think of authenticity as taking off a heavy costume you've been wearing for too long. It might feel vulnerable at first, like standing naked in a world full of armored knights. But that naked honesty is powerful and light. Montaigne discovered that the more he embraced his own nature, the freer and happier he became. He wrote candidly about his fears, flaws, and desires in his essays, not to please any critic. In fact, many were scandalized by his frankness, but to know himself and live honestly. In doing so, he found a contentment that external validation could never give. He even quipped about the folly of chasing status and praise. On the loftiest throne in the world, we are still sitting only on our own rump. No matter how high you climb in others' eyes, be it wealth, fame, or approval, you're still just you. All the accolades in the world won't change your basic self, so why devote your life to grasping for them? Far better to be at peace with who you are than to be a king tormented by the fear of losing his crown. By letting go of the need to control your image, you paradoxically gain a new kind of influence. Authenticity is magnetic. When you stop trying so hard to be who you think others want you to be, you might discover that people are drawn to the real you, or maybe some drift away, but those are likely the relationships built on pretense anyway. The ones that matter will remain, and they'll be stronger and more genuine than ever. Montaigne understood that relationships flourish when grounded in honesty and acceptance rather than control. As he and the Stoics would agree, you cannot force love or respect. You can only be worthy of it by being true and kind, and then let others give it freely or not at all. Detaching from external validation frees you to connect more sincerely. You start to find companions who appreciate you, not the mask you wore. And perhaps more importantly, you start to appreciate yourself. When you let go, life opens up. Here is the beautiful paradox. When you stop constantly worrying about things going wrong, things often start going right. It's as if life, when no longer bullied by your anxiety, gently aligns to help you. At the very least, your mind becomes clearer and calmer, so you make better decisions. Instead of panicking and grabbing at quick fixes, you can respond to challenges with grace. Instead of freezing in fear of failure, you try, and you learn that failure isn't the end of the world. Instead of obsessing over whether people like you, you befriend yourself, and find that others are more likely to befriend you too. By letting go of the outcome, you give your best to the process, and that often leads to better outcomes anyway. Think of a time you performed at your best, maybe in sports, or giving a presentation, or on a date where you felt completely at ease. Chances are, you weren't overthinking every move. You were in the moment, trusting yourself. Psychologists call it being in the flow. We achieve this state not by clinging tighter, but by loosening up, by trusting our training or intuition. Life as a whole is like this too. Montaigne's wisdom and modern psychology both tell us that a mind racked by worry is a mind split and distracted. But a mind free from constant worry can be fully present. When you're present, you notice opportunities you would have overlooked. You have the bravery to say yes to things that scare you, because you're no longer chained by fear, and also the wisdom to say no to things that don't serve you, because you no longer live for others' approval. In short, you start living on your own terms. Even failure and pain, which we all inevitably encounter, are experienced differently when you let go of the fear of them. Montaigne taught that by accepting our humanity, our fallibility and eventual death, we rob these things of their terror. When you stop bracing against every hit, you find you can absorb shocks and even grow from them. A failure becomes a lesson, not a verdict on your worth. A rejection becomes redirection, not a proof that you weren't good enough. You begin to see life as happening for you, not to you. Each experience, good or bad, becomes part of your story, not something that defines or destroys you. This resilient mindset grows naturally once you release the constant dread. Courage isn't the absence of fear, but as Montaigne and others showed, it's the ability to move forward despite fear, often by acknowledging it and then letting it pass by. When you loosen your grip on control, you discover that you had strength and creativity inside you all along to handle whatever comes. And here's another secret. When you stop living in the prison of worry and fear, you make room for joy. Worry often blocks us from noticing life's simple pleasures. How can you enjoy a sunset when your mind is replaying today's meeting or tomorrow's tasks? How can you relish time with loved ones when you're constantly anxious about impressing them or securing their approval? Letting go, as Montaigne would encourage, means finally experiencing the present. It means laughing freely because you're not second-guessing how you look or sound. It means trying something new, painting, dancing, learning an instrument, without telling yourself you'll be terrible at it. It means, perhaps for the first time in ages, feeling light. The heavy armor of perfectionism and worry falls away, and you can move more freely through the world. Ironically, when you stop trying so hard to make everything go well, life naturally feels like it's going better. You begin to flow with the current of life instead of exhausting yourself fighting against it. A new journey begins, the choice to live free. Now, take a moment to reflect on your own life. Where has worry been holding you back? Maybe you already know. That dream you deferred because you were afraid to fail, that relationship you stayed in because you feared being alone, or those parts of yourself you hide because you worry others wouldn't understand. Ask yourself honestly, what has all that worrying and self-denial cost you? And more importantly, what might change if you started to let go? This is not an abstract philosophical musing. It's a call to action within your own heart and mind. Montaigne's lessons reach across centuries, but they only come alive if you test them in your life. Try it, even in small ways. The next time you catch that familiar worry looping in your head, pause and acknowledge it. I see you. Fear. Take a deep breath and gently release it. Remind yourself that this moment is all you truly have, and in this moment, you are okay. When you feel the itch to seek validation, perhaps you're about to post something just for the likes, or bend your opinion to fit in, stop and ask, am I being true to myself right now? If the answer is no, consider bravely doing the thing that reflects the real you, even if it's scary. Each time you do this, you're flexing a new muscle, the ability to live free of unnecessary fear. Letting go is a practice, a journey you embark on again and again. It doesn't happen overnight. Montaigne himself had to remind his anxious mind many times to relax its grip. But each step you take in this direction is liberating. You might start to sleep better at night. You might feel a novel sense of peace when plans change or when someone disagrees with you. Things that used to send you into a panic. That peace is the sign that you are finally living as you were meant to, not as a captive of worry, but as the author of your own story. As we close, consider the life that awaits on the other side of worry and fear. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a vast open field, a gentle breeze on your face. Behind you is a cage with its door wide open, the cage where your worries used to lock you up. You step forward, away from that cage, feeling the grass under your feet and seeing the wide horizon ahead. This is the beginning of your new journey. The world hasn't magically changed. Uncertainties and challenges are still out there, but you have changed. You carry within you Montaigne's timeless wisdom and your own growing trust in yourself. You know now that whatever comes, you don't need to meet it with dread or with pretense. You can meet it just as you are, and that is enough. Let go and walk forward. Every step taken in freedom and authenticity is a step toward the life you were always meant to live. The secret to finally living has been in your hands all along. It's the simple, brave act of letting go. And as you venture forth, ask yourself one last question, a gentle challenge posed to your heart. Are you ready to let go of who you should be and embrace who you are? The road is open before you, and your true life is waiting. All you have to do is take that first step out of the prison of worry into the wide open world. Your new journey begins now.